All right, a very tense day for Oscar Pistorius at his murder trial. The chief prosecutor cross-examining the Olympian tried to shred his version of the events. The Blade Runner claims he killed his girlfriend by mistake, shooting her through a bathroom door because he thought there was an intruder behind that door. Well, the prosecutor says Pistorius' story doesn't add up.
She was standing right in front of the toilet door talking to you when you shot her.
It's not true.
That's the only reasonable explanation for her standing upright. That's the only reasonable explanation why you shot her in the hip, where you did.
It's not true, my lady.
She wasn't scared of anything, except you.
Jonna Spilbor joins us, Brian Claypool as well. Both are defense attorneys. Good to see you both. You know, Jonna, let me start with you. The biggest problem the defense has is that the story that is being told by the accused just fundamentally doesn't make sense and is contradicted by a great deal of the evidence, correct?
Halfway correct. That's the point that the prosecution is trying to make. And I think the prosecution is failing miserably in trying to prove the necessary malice for murder, but where the prosecution is scoring points is in connection with the lesser charge of culpable homicide. In order for Oscar to be guilty of culpable homicide, the prosecution needs to show that he acted unreasonably. Even if the judge believed every word that came out of Oscar's mouth, she next needs to determine, was it reasonable for you to shoot inside a closed bathroom without knowing where your girlfriend was? That's going to be the crux of this case.
Brian, the defense is arguing what would here in the U.S. be imperfect self-defense. I made an honest but mistaken belief in my actions, right?
Yeah, Greg, that's right. And this case could be more about image than evidence. Unlike most murder trials, you don't have a high-profile celebrity like you do here. And a lot of times, the judge acting as the jury here is going to be drawn into Pistorius' image. Which image is she going to choose? The Oscar that has overcome adversity, who's a world hero, or the Oscar who's being portrayed as being barbaric? But here's the problem, Greg. It's totally plausible that Pistorius goes out to the deck. He brings in some fans. That gives Riva enough time to possibly go into the bathroom.
Right.
That's where he might hear the noise. And then he goes over and thinks that somebody is truly in the bathroom.
But you know,
so
the problem with all
Jonna.
of that is, and Jonna, you know, it happened today in court again, is Pistorius is contradicting himself and he seems confused. And at one point in time, he says, well, I'm suffering a lack of sleep. I'm weary. And even his defense attorney is sitting there with his hands over his eyes and shaking his head. Is the strategy of the prosecutor actually working? He is berating this guy on the witness stand. You can't do that in the United States, but there they can. So much so that he's really sort of breaking him down.
I think it is working, so we'll give the prosecution points there. And you also hit it on the head, Greg. When I watch the prosecutor in action, it would never happen here. And it's almost, if you really dissect what the prosecutor is doing, he's taken his closing argument and he's disguised it as cross-examination. I don't think the man has really asked Oscar Pistorius a question yet. You know, the other day, he was badgering the witness. Say that you killed her. Say it. Who? Why? He's not going to say it. That doesn't get him any closer to a conviction.
You know, Brian, all the tears may work in front of a jury, but there's no jury here. You know, it's a savvy, experienced judge. And, you know, the longer this thing goes on, the less his tears may mean. And you do sort of wonder, and maybe the judge is wondering, is he crying because he didn't want to spend the rest of his life behind bars for something he did, or because he's falsely accused and fears wrongful conviction?
Greg, I agree with you. It's possible that too many tears might work against him, but I disagree with John. I think the prosecutor's making a grave mistake in brutally assaulting Pistorius on the stand. Again, this case may boil down to image, and here's a guy that's got a great image, and if he's being beaten up on the stand, personally attacked, when he has no prior record of any domestic violence or or any stay-away orders issued against him. I think that's a real risk that the prosecution is running here. And the judge may ultimately decide that, hey, look, this really was a terrible mistake.
You know, I saw her today for the very first time actually address Pistorius, and, you know, what she had to say to him wasn't really all that favorable. We'll leave that for another discussion. Brian, Jonna, good to see you.
Thanks, Greg. Same here.
Great.